Hey everyone, welcome back to AntLab Games. So for episode 2, we're going to kick off the second leg of our space campaign. And we are flipping the card. So we're moving on to the year 1966. 10 more years to go, and we've got a lot to do. So I think we're going to jump right into it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get us caught up from last game where I had erroneously spent an extra 20 million, so I'm going to dock that 20 million to get us back in line. So I'm only going to collect 5 million for my funding this year, which is probably going to hurt me, but I had more money last time than I should have. So in any case, what we're going to do, I think this turn anyway, is I'm going to start sending out some probes, and we're going to get out and see if we can survey Venus, see what we're in for. Also like to survey the moon, lunar survey, because I think that's a quick win. Try to get as many points as we can quickly while we're still, we'll get to test our rockets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a Saturn rocket with an Atlas. Now, one thing I didn't look at last video, or at least show you, is this sort of cheat sheet that comes with every of the faction cards, and basically what it tells you, it's a real quick reference to say, okay, if I have a difficulty of 8, so for example, I want to get to Earth orbit, what rocket can get me there, right? So the Soyuz rockets could do it, but I can only carry 1 additional mass, whereas the Saturn rocket can get me to Earth orbit in 1 rocket and have an additional 5 mass. So it's just an easier way to kind of give you an idea of what rockets can carry what at what difficulty. So you can kind of, it just helps you with the math a bit. I think Excel would probably be the key here if I had a little terminal and was able to type in create a formula to just figure out where I'm going. But I mean, half the challenge here is doing it in your head, right? On the fly. So, like I said, we've got our Atlas, we've got our Saturn rocket, and I think I'm gonna send a probe up if I have one. Do I even have a probe here? I don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 2 million and buy 2 probes, at least for now, right? So I'll put a probe on here. I'm going to eventually, I think, build a second rocket here, an exact replica of this to send out towards Venus. So I've got my astronauts, I've got my capsules, but I want to send up probes because I want to do some surveying. And I think I could do that with the capsule as well, but the capsules are heavier. So right now, at a weight of, let's see, 4, 5, and 20, 25 times 8 is 200, which is exactly what our Saturn rocket can handle, right? So that's the extra 5 based on the chart that we could carry. Because you got to remember, we always got to count the rocket weight. So this rocket alone can get us into Earth orbit. So I think what we'll do is, remember we have $3 million left over to spend, so I gotta remember that because I want to probably buy a few more items. Maybe I'll buy 2 more probes, and should I buy 3 probes? What the hell? We'll buy 3 probes. So I'll keep them in my stack. So that was our 5 million, so we're all spent. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a Saturn, okay? So we have 1 card left on our Saturn rockets. I don't know what this is. I don't have any money to fix this, so hopefully it's a success. And it is, thank God. Alright, so because it's a success, I can remove it for free. Saturn rockets are 100% tested. This rocket launches, it's expended. And our probe and Atlas are now floating in Earth orbit. And let's leave it sit there for now. So I have enough, if I so choose, to head towards the moon. But I don't think I want to do that just yet. And the reason I don't want to do that yet is because if I actually fire another Atlas rocket, and I could do that now. Well, no, actually, I can't because I don't have another Saturn to get it up there. All right, so if I could put another Atlas up here, I can rendezvous the two, but I'm gonna need to buy the rendezvous technology, and we'll actually start doing that. So that's pretty cool. But I can combine the two ships into one. I think with this Atlas and probe plus another Atlas, I could have enough to get me to the inner planets transfer, and then to Venus orbit and survey Venus, and that will actually show us what we're in for coming into Venus, right? Because you don't want to go in blind. You definitely don't want to go in blind because there's a couple of bad outcomes on Venus, and that could really mess us up if we spend all this time and money getting astronauts out there. Same with the moon. If we go to land on the moon, like, we want to make sure that we're not going into anything blind. So I'm going to get a probe out here. I'm going to get a probe out here, and we're going to scan both of these. And I think that's our short-term goal before we really start throwing a lot of rockets into space and trying to push to Venus or Mars. So, all right, so that's the end of my turn. We're going to move to 1967, and I'm going to collect my $25 million. All right, so I've got 25. I'm going to spend 10 million right off the bat, and we're going to research rendezvous. Now, this is going to allow us to dock or separate two different vessels, in orbit or in space. So we're going to have to start doing that. I'm going to spend my last 15 on a Saturn rocket, and we're going to try our first rendezvous. Alright, so my Saturn's going to go here. Yeah, so we have another ship here. So I'm going to launch this Saturn. I know it's an auto success. So we're going to send this up to Earth orbit. Now I've got an Atlas, probe, and another Atlas sitting in Earth orbit. I could go ahead and try to do my rendezvous now and dock, but I don't have any money if we have a failure. So I think that would be a wasted attempt, and there's no reason we shouldn't just wait another year to do that. So we're going to end the year. We're going to pick it up in 1968. I'll get my new funding. So now let's go ahead and see what happens. So I'm going to attempt a rendezvous. So two ships in the same space. I'm going to combine them, and we get a success. So I'm going to weed that out for 10 million. I'll spend 10. I now put the second Atlas on this rocket, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire this Atlas. And my Atlases are fully tested, so I know they're automatic successes. So what I had here was 8, 9 times the difficulty of 3 is 27, and that's exactly what our Atlas does. So this guy goes here, but we have a time symbol, an hourglass symbol. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this hourglass, we're going to put it on our ship, and that represents 1 year's travel time. So he's not technically here yet, but he's on his way. So once we go to, at the end of this year, when I'm done with all of my moves, I can remove that hourglass, and at the start of 1969, I can do my next maneuver with him. All right? That's how that works. So, and I didn't have to roll leaving suborbital because I have no astronauts here. I'm not going to have to worry about radiation again because I don't have astronauts. So that's something that setting this probe is, it's beneficial. I don't have to worry about it. So I've got 15 million left. I'm going to need to buy some more rockets because I want to send my next probe up to lunar orbit. So I will spend 15 on my next Saturn, and we'll get that ready. So I'm going to send up a Saturn with a probe. I'm going to need another Atlas next turn. So that ends this year. We're going to move on to 69, and I'm going to collect $25 million in funding. All right, so I'm going to spend 5 mil on another Atlas. I'll put it here. We're going to fire this Saturn. We know it's an auto success. We're going to get this probe into Earth orbit. I'm going to now fire off the Atlas. This is a thrust of 27, right? So I have a 5 mass times 3 is 15, more than enough. Fire the Atlas. Again, auto success. and that's going to send us to lunar orbit, but it's going to take a year. And I forgot to remove the year token from my Venus probe. So either way, it doesn't matter because I'm firing off my Atlas. So I've got 5 mass times a difficulty of 3. So let me get up there so you can see where I'm at. All right, so we've got Venus orbit, difficulty of 3. It's going to take a year. So I've got 5 mass times 3 is 15. Another Atlas rocket's going to give us 27 thrust. So that'll send us enough. That's enough to send us through. But all we have left is a probe. So right now, just a probe is flying to Venus orbit, and I'm going to have to put another timer. So we got a timer on our probe, but we'll be able to scan next round. Timer on our moon probe. We'll be able to scan next round. I've got 20 million left. So what do I want to do? At this stage, I want to start. I'm going to have to start buying some more rockets. So I might as well just go ahead and buy another Saturn for 15 million. Get that out here. That leaves me with 5, and with my last 5, I'll buy another Atlas. So we're going to start building sort of the same type of assemblies that we can get up into Earth orbit. Maybe do some more rendezvousing and get us and then start sending astronauts out towards Venus once we get all these surveys done. So we're going to remove these time tokens because I'm done. And it is now 1970. I've got my 25 million, but we're going to do some surveying now, right? Because we finally arrived. So I've got a probe floating in lunar orbit and a probe floating in Venus orbit, and I'm going to survey. So my surveying, since we've already tested it, it's an auto success. So we're going to get to reveal what's on Venus and what's on the moon. So if you have a working probe or capsule in a location, if there is a hazard, which with these like little symbols are, like landing hazard or moon hazard, these special symbols, on a maneuver from this particular location, the surveying ability allows us to scan and reveal and explore this tile. So we flip it over, and basically what it tells us is spacecraft destroyed by vast oceans of dust. So spacecraft landing on this moon are going to be destroyed. So we cannot land on the moon. So what that tells us is a moon sample is not going to happen because any craft that lands on the moon is going to be destroyed. So we can't get a sample. So the moon is hazardous. This is coming out of our mission pool, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. But we, by surveying the moon, gain 4 more victory points for performing a lunar survey. We revealed the moon location. So that's 4 more points. We're up to a total of 9. Now our mission pool's actually gone down. And what I mean by that is that since I had to remove that moon sample, we actually only have these 4 that we could potentially complete by the end of the game. So, but we're actually about to prepare to knock out these 2, or at least one of these 2, and that'll be enough, I think, to do this. Okay, so again, we are going to use the survey to check out Venus. And Venus tells us that spacecraft destroyed by extreme heat and pressure. Alright, so Venus is inhospitable. So that's going to change up my objectives quite a bit. So what does this mean? This means that I'm not putting a man on Venus, so the space agency is going to have to retract that. We're not bringing Venus samples back to Earth. They're going to have to retract that. And there are only 2 more potential missions we can accomplish here. One is a working probe on Ceres, so I don't have to send anyone manned, or a working probe capsule on Mars. So if I can land a ship on Ceres, but I'm going to have to do some more probes. So I got to do exactly what I just did. I'm going to have to do again and scan Mars and Ceres. So Ceres, it looks like Ceres is going to take some time. I'm going to have to land, but I can scan it from the Inner Planets transfer. It doesn't have an atmosphere, so I could probably bring down a standard shuttle, standard capsule. Mars does have somewhat of an atmosphere, I believe. It does, so I will have to do a re-entry on Mars to land, but I could land on either one, and either one will be enough to win the game. Because I have 9 points right now, so I only need to succeed at one of these two. It looks like I should have enough time to build another ship and get it out there. So let's go ahead and spend some money here. So I'm going to go ahead and spend 15 million and buy another Saturn rocket, and I'm going to buy 2 Atlas rockets with my remaining 10, and we're going to get ready to send two more rockets up. All right, so it's now 1971. I got my 25 million, but we're going to start preparing ships. So I need to get a working probe or capsule. So I can send a probe onto Ceres. So one of these ships is going to be a probe, and one of these ships is going to be a capsule. And it just has to be a working capsule. It doesn't necessarily need to be anything special. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to buy the lightest capsule available, which is the Eagle. And I can now, but see, that's going to burn up on atmosphere. I'm going to need to send, at the very least, a Vostok to Mars, because I have re-entry and I can use this to gain re-entry without it burning up, right? So I'm going to send these 2 up. Actually, I'm going to have to do it over here, because these 2 are already out floating in space. I wonder if I could leverage that. I'd have to send rockets out there to pick them up, though, which may not be worth the effort. I can just leave them float. So I will move these out of the way, bring these over so it's a little bit easier to see. And what we'll do is finish building these. So I know that if I put an Atlas and a Saturn on each, that's enough. So all my astronauts, I really don't need them right now, which is great, because I'm not going to kill any more of them. But I know I can get these 2 rockets into orbit and then send some more next round to help out. So let's fire off both of these Saturns, right? Boom, boom. We're going to send these both up into space. We know that's auto successes. We are Saturn rocket pros, right? So we got a probe. Actually, hold on. Yeah, I got a probe and a Vostok, both sitting in Earth orbit now, right? So it's kind of like a space station. And from here, I'm going to have to send up some more rockets, right? Because I'm not going to have enough. The Atlas is not enough to get me past the Inner Planets transfer. So I'm going to need some bigger rockets to get me further into Ceres. So let's go ahead and buy. I've got 15 million. I'll buy another Saturn, because I know I got to build another Saturn. And I'm probably going to need to put some more Atlases out there. So I'll buy. I have 1 Atlas. Let me go ahead and buy 2 more, and we'll see if we can really, get these rockets geared up out there. All right. So we're going to end the turn. I'll collect my 25 million. We are going to... Do I want to send these out with just... I could send a Saturn before I end my turn. I could send a Saturn and an Atlas out there, which may not be a bad idea. So let me go ahead and launch that. I'm going to launch a Saturn before I end this turn. I'm going to put this Atlas... Remember, I'm out of money, so I can't do anything else. This Atlas is going to go up here, and I'm going to try to combine it with my probe, with this guy. Alright, I'm going to try to do a rendezvous. So we're going to... Where's my rendezvous? So I've got 2 cards left, and I've got no money to try to... Yeah, you know what? I'm going to leave... We'll do the rendezvous next round, next year. So let's advance the year. I just launched it. It's in space. I don't have another symbol. I could use another ship, but there's no real point because I'm gonna rendezvous right now with this Atlas. So I'm gonna go ahead. I've got my money now. Let's do the rendezvous. I've got 2 cards. I just want to be able to weed this out. So if I have a bad outcome, I can at least thin it, right? So I have a success on rendezvous. So that's actually quite good. I'll pay the 10. It's expensive to get rid of that, but it's worth it. Pay the 10. I've got, so that Atlas rocket that I just launched, I just rendezvoused with my Atlas probe. I'm sorry, with my probe. So my first ship, which is this satellite looking thingy, right? So I've got this one floating here with a Vostok and an Atlas. I've got 15 million. I'm going to buy another Saturn. So I'm out of money now. I've got another ship getting ready to launch, but I don't have, oh, I do have another Atlas, so I'm going to do that as well next turn. So I am, let's see, Ceres is going to cost me 25. I'll have enough thrust, so let's do this. I'm going to fire my probe. So I fire one of my Atlases, right? So that's 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 9. 9 times 3 to get to the inner is 27, as we did last time, right? It's going to cost me a year, though. So he's going to move up to the inner planet's transfer. I'm going to have to put a timer token on this rocket. And we're going to have a mass of 5 remaining. So 5 times 5 to get to Ceres is 25. And this is a thrust of 27, so that should be good for next year. I'm going to go ahead and launch my Saturn I just bought, and that's going to put this Atlas out in Earth orbit, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to combine that with this rocket, rendezvous, next turn. So let's move to 1973. I'll collect my 25 million, and I'm going to do the rendezvous. So I have 1 card left, and it is a success. So it's a free. It comes off for free. So there were all 3 successes. What a wonderful space agency we have. So I've been able to combine those rockets. So I've got 2 Atlases and a Vostok. The problem is that, well, actually I might be able to do this. I might be able to get that to Earth orbit. I mean to Mars orbit. Holy crap, I think we're okay. So let me take this off. The timer comes off. And let's work on Ceres now. Let's see what happens here. So Ceres is a cost of 5, right? But I can scan, which I know I get an auto survey. So let's look at Ceres. Valuable mineral sample on Earth for $50. Wow. So if I were to bring a mineral sample back, I could earn $50 on Ceres. So we just surveyed. Now it's going to cost me 5 thrust in a year to get to Ceres. So what I can do is I have a weight of 5 times 5 is 25, and I have thrust of 27. So we're going to fly to Ceres, and we're going to use up our Atlas. So all we have left is this probe, and we are going to put a counter token on this probe. So it's going to take us a year to get to Ceres. We are going to launch or do a maneuver here. And we have a mass of 4. 4 is 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 times 3 is 30. That's too heavy. So I'm going to need to get myself... Oh, I miscalculated. So I'm going to need a bigger rocket. Interesting. Alright, so I miscalculated, and I'm going to have to bring an additional Atlas. So I need to do another rendezvous. So I need to put 1 more Atlas on this, and then I can fire 2 Atlases for 54 thrust at the same time. And that should do it. So probably would have been easier had I researched the Soyuz rockets, because they provide 80 thrust, but at this stage it's too late. I don't want to mess with any untested rockets at this point. So we are going to spend 15 million on a Saturn and another 5 on an Atlas, and that's what we're gonna do. So we have 5 left. We've got, actually, I didn't need to spend that 5. I'll keep that 10 for now, because I already have an extra Atlas rocket sitting here. So, with that said, I'm a little nervous because we've not done re-entries, so I need to do potentially some testing for re-entries. I could probably do some quick test flights now on Earth to just get my re-entries out of the, tested before we actually hit the Mars orbit. And I have a little bit of time. I have 3 years left to get this done. So if I were to, I have to get something into orbit and then bring something back. So what I could do is I could throw a probe. No, I can't. I'd have to put like something that can do re-entry. And that would be an Apollo capsule, but it's too heavy. Way too heavy. Man, so this is tough. I'm gonna need, so I could probably buy, I guess next round I can buy another Saturn and do a test. I only have 10 million, so I can't buy a Saturn now. Let me just buy 2 Atlases at this point. And maybe I could swing something next year. So let's end our year. This probe is going to come off. We're going to complete the Ceres lander. So we have a working probe on Ceres. So we succeeded. So I think we're going to win. Yeah, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Minus 2 for the astronaut is 15, and there's only 7 points in the pool. So we definitely won, but I'm going to finish this off. There's no reason to stop now. I'd love to bang out this last mission in the last 3 years if we can possibly do it. So, we know we've got ourselves a probe we've got probes everywhere. So we've got probes in Ceres, we've got probes in the lunar orbit, we got probes in Venus orbit. I've got this guy here, so I'm going to fire. We might as well start going, right? So if I got to get this other Atlas rocket though up. So let's launch this Atlas, right? We're launching the Atlas up into Earth orbit from the Saturn. And we're going to rendezvous. It's an auto success on rendezvous. So now I've just combined 3 Atlases onto this Vostok. And we are going to fire off these 2 Atlases, and that's going to give us 54 thrust. We only need, let's see, 12, 13, 14 times 3 is 42. So we have enough firing 2 Atlases at the same time. That'll get us into the interplanets transfer next year. So we have a year to wait. Meanwhile, I would like to purchase some stuff. So we're going to need to get our funding. So next year we got 25 million. I'm going to buy a Saturn, and I'm going to send up one of my probes. So it's going to cost me 15 million. I got 10 left. So I'm going to fire up a probe. No, I can't fire that up. Dang it. It's not going to do it because I'm not going to be able to re-entry with this. I think I have to test re-entry with a capsule. Alright, you know what, I can do this. So I'm going to need to buy a Vostok. So I'm going to spend 2 million and buy a Vostok and put it on my Saturn. That's all I have to do. And I will send this Vostok into, I can pull this Venus lander to represent this, right? So this is my Vostok right now. With 22 mass times 8 is 176 out of 200, so that's plenty to get me into Earth orbit, right? We know this is a success. And I'm going to send this guy back down to Earth, so he's going to have to test re-entry. So I will take my re-entries. I have 8 million left, and we have a success, so I'm going to leave that. Don't have enough to weed it off, but we know that this capsule is successful. Our odds of landing on Mars are 50-50, so that's a positive. Let's advance to, so this timer is going to come off, by the way, so we're going to 1975. We are going to take our money. We are going to do another maneuver. So we've got one more Atlas to fire at a weight of 6. 6 times 4 is 24. We have 27 thrusts, so the Atlas is going to fire. He's going to go to Mars orbit, but that's going to take 2 years. So we might be able to do this at the very end of 76. So 2 years, right? I'm going to buy another Saturn rocket for 15 million. I'm going to fire him off. I'm going to test re-entry again. This time I have money to, this time I have money to spend. Success. So I am going to pay 10 million to remove that. We've got one card left on re-entry. End of 75, we remove one timer. We go into 1976. I take my 25 million. I'm going to spend the 15 again to send to buy a Saturn. Saturn fires this guy up again. Test re-entry. My last card on re-entry is a success, so we can burn that. So we know we're 100% success rate on re-entry. We end the year. 76 ends. We take the timer off. We move to the end, and this guy actually made it to Mars, but I don't think I get another move on this end. But technically, he successfully is going to land. So whether or not I take this, I'll leave that up to debate. I don't know, because we are at the end. But what we've got is, in my opinion, is success. So we got really lucky, I think, with Venus and with Venus not being able to be landed on. You know, weeded out those two very high point mission cards, which in turn allowed me to, do some of the smaller missions, and I think they were easier. I didn't have to worry about sending astronauts up, but I could have probably gotten away with that. I would have just had to figure out how much more thrust I would have needed to support the supplies to feed them on the way out, and then put them in a shielded shuttle so they wouldn't be, prone to the radiation sickness and all that crazy stuff. So, in any case, I think it turned out pretty well. All said and done, I earned 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Minus 2 is 15 victory points. And I left 7 on the table. So, well, I hope you liked it. I thought it's a pretty good game. It's pretty exciting. Like I said, it's very mathy, but I mean, if you can figure out how best to use this chart, it is certainly helpful in deciding what you're going to need as far as what rocket will handle which difficulties and how much extra mass you could throw on there. And just getting sort of the idea of multi-stages and doing the rendezvous and parking some parts out in orbit, and then putting them together to go further out. We didn't get to use the ion engines, but those are pretty cool how they build up thrust over time. But you can see there's not a lot of time in this game, so you really gotta balance, researching the right rockets. The Junos, I probably didn't, I wasted time and money on those. I probably should have did the Soyuz. It might have been a little bit better. But you live and learn. You figure out, what works best for you. But there you have it. That is Leaving Earth. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough, and please leave your comments. Any rules, mistakes I've made, feel free to point out so I can add notations to the video. But there you go. Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.